Hi, I'm Ryan Benjamin. Welcome to my course on how to pencil and ink as a professional comic book artist. I've been a professional comic book artist for going on 28 years now. I have been working for DC, Marvel, and pretty much any comic book company out there. I worked on the Batman series, Batman Beyond, one of the top books. It was actually #1 in the New York Times for a while. I did the origins of Wonder Woman. I've done Green Lantern, Aquaman, Superman comics. In my course, I will teach you how to improve your pencils, how to speed things up, how to strengthen your line weights, your penciling skills, how to do some cross-hatching and shading, understanding lighting. I'm gonna go over powerful dynamic forms versus just simple forms or simple poses, demonstrated through a little bit of a character concepting, and I'm gonna talk about converting a script into powerful cinematic panels. And inking is something that I'm gonna introduce you to tools that I personally use and other artists use. This course is made for all levels, but I'm going to mainly focus on beginners and intermediate students because in my past experience of teaching, I've seen some mistakes a lot of students have been making, so I'm going to focus specifically on these mistakes and I'm going to show how to improve them. All right, let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate on how I would ink a head. There's a variety of lines in here. I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to show you a couple of different techniques, how I would ink metal, leather, skin, other objects other than skin, how to ink an eyeball, how to ink, short stubbly hair, and fur. So there's 3 different ways of areas where things, the pencils are pretty tight, the pencils are kind of loose, and then the area where the pencils are absolutely loose. There's no really, it's just pure energy going on in this area. So I'm going to show you how to ink that also. Okay, so one of the first things I want to point out is this curve in the hat. You see this hat right here? So his helmet hat has this long curve right here. So one of the things you want to do is you want to try to capture that curve right here. So you would use a combination of pivoting on your elbows, on your wrist and your elbows. You want to have a piece on the side, a piece of paper on the side, so you can squeeze out some ink. Make sure your brush pen has a lot of ink in there. You can also use a quill to ink this, and you can also use a paintbrush to ink this if you want, but I'm going to use the brush pen. So I'm going to do some test strokes, get my hands in the right area, page in the right area, and I'm programming my brain right now to tell myself, okay, I'm about to ink this line. Sometimes you might not want to ink it completely through, just ink it from here to here, and then from here to here. That's another way of kind of getting around it too. If you can't do this entire piece in one stroke, you want to be able to get it right. Get some ink, my brush. Here we go. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's going to happen. So you want to just go with it. Don't fight it. This is the top line, so I'm going to go a little bit thinner. So what you're looking for is that thick, thin, thick, thin. You want to have that flare. That's going to give it some life to your edge instead of everything so rigid and crisp and clean. You could have went in. I could have went in with a pen and some kind of ruler, a curved ruler, and try to get it nice and crisp and clean. But it would look too crisp and clean. You want to have it. You want to keep it alive. You want to keep that line alive. It's not too, even though it's sitting on an inanimate object sitting on an organic model, you still want to have some kind of life to it. Curve, practice. Curve, curve. Follow through. I'll come back to this area. I'm going to try and start on this side and go to this side over here. So I'm looking at the contours of his face, the edge of his nose, edge of his cheek, edge of the lips, edge of his chin, and I'm going to ink that slightly different from how I'm going to ink the lines inside of his face. If I ink them all the same, that's when you're going to kill it. The face is going to look dead. So you don't want it to look dead. So you want to ink it slightly different. Meaning you're thinking about your lighting now, your line weight with your lighting. So if it's light at the top, it's going to have a shadow at the bottom. So you want to think like that. So it's a little bit thinner here. Double up on the line from time to time. Just like that. And then now I'm going to go pretty thick underneath his nose because I want to bring it out a little bit more. Just like that. Okay, so I create this hard edge here because I'm trying to define that edge of his face, but his beard is pretty stubbly and it's on a round shape like that. So I don't want to create a hard edge. I could just create a hard edge and come back with white and clean it up, but I'm going to try and do everything with the hair instead of having to go back and forth. So I'm just immediately going to go straight into the stubble and just start to ink that part of it. And I'm going to let the spacing between the hair follicles, the hair particles, to actually create that curved effect I'm looking for. Short strokes. Keep it short. Just like that. Okay. I'm going to go back in there and keep doing my next layer and then my next layer until I actually have a full chin of beard. So as it's getting closer to this area, I'm going to start to space it out even more. Okay, so the area is pretty dry. The cool thing about this brush, even though it's ink, it dries pretty fast. It dries way faster than the quill or even a paintbrush.
Welcome to New Masters Academy, the best place to get art education online. Master the skills of drawing, painting, sculpture, illustration, and much more with the guidance from world-renowned artists. Embark on your creative journey today at nma.art.
Okay, so coming up to the eyes, you have to think about layering this now. You have to think what's in front of what. So the eyebrows are in front of the eyes itself. So I'm going to ink the eyebrows first, and then the upper eyelid, the eyes, or the upper eyelid, then the lower eyelid, and then kind of fill in the gap from that area. So thinking eyelid first, eyebrows first. Double up, triple on some of the lines, create this nice little layered effect. Turn your page, get your hands in the right position, and just keep going. Okay, so now I have the eyebrows. Now I'm going to go next layer down. Thicker at the top, thinner at the bottom. Double up on certain areas. Okay, so a little bit rougher on those lines underneath. Faster you go, the rougher, the, the, the smoother but rougher it has that effect. Creating this quick line. I want it to look energetic. 2, 1, 2, 3. Keep throwing lines like that. So what I'm doing, I'm going to start to stitch as I'm building this. Okay. Creating this nice little pattern effect underneath the eye. Throwing lines. Creating these wrinkles, I'm going to go thick, thin, in short bursts. Thick, thin, like that. Thick, thin. Coming up to the scars, I'm going to ink the scars before I finish up the rest. So he has these like giant cuts under his eye. Okay. So I'm going to jump to mustache. That's another major part. You want to nail that part down. So So let me show how I'm going to ink the rest of this. I'm going to use the quill to actually get these patterns in here. Just to show you the difference between. Getting ready to use this to get his band-aid on his nose. Here we go. Double, triple lines. When you do that, it creates this nice little edge to it. Brings it to life. Turn your page. Thicker at the bottom. Thinner at the top. Just like that. These lines, I'm going to go super thin with these. Don't want to go too thick. So I'm going to go really thin because these lines represent like highlights or just like different variations in lights. Thick to thin. Keep a portion of those lines really thin. Change up your line weights. Adds a variety of flavor. Create a range. Some areas are still wet because I'm using the quill. So I'm gonna let it dry and switch over to here. Okay. So this is leather, so I'm gonna try to ink it slightly different. Just speed up the textures. Instead of just drawing a straight line, I'm gonna just play around with it. Give it some life and give it some edge. I got play around with it, thick to thin, just like that. See that? Got this nice little effect right here. It's too wet in that area for me to ink this part of the cheek, so I'm gonna let it dry, and I'll come back and I'll finish off with certain areas. Create that pattern. Still wet. So I'm gonna switch over to here, let this area dry. Okay, so this is fur. So I'm gonna show how to ink this right now, okay? So I'm just gonna come in, and since these are pretty tight pencils, I'm just gonna follow it, what was laid down. Come see these areas, and just go ahead and fill it in. Okay, now you create this nice little pattern, right?